Hey, Dave. We are,
Hey. Oh, hang on.
I was if Dave wasn't here, I would have just started singing my song, "Singing into the Void." But now that you're here, Dave, we just saved this crime against humanity.
I wouldn't call it that, but yeah, okay. I get your point.
Sure. Yeah, I decided to take the radical move and not to stand up and move around in between shows. I decided I was just going to be lazy and just do this. So for the last 5 minutes, I've just been kind of goofing around online, and here I am.
Jumping right into it.
Yeah, Rand Farmer's here. Rand Farmer.
Woo-hoo.
What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing well enough.
That's all that counts, my friend. Hey, look at this. I feel like I should have some Garfield.
This is exactly how I feel about Christmas. It's my naughty but nice teddy bear.
Oh, nice. That's great, Dave.
It's called a Feisty Pet. If you want to look it up on Amazon, they have a bunch of different ones. I wanted the Trash Panda one, but my sister liked it a lot, so I gave it to her.
So if you play your cards right, that will be in the nightmares of a few small children.
Oh, my nieces loved it.
Oh, good.
Which is a little, you show it to them at first, and they're like, oh, cute. And then you do the scary face, and you expect them to have some sort of reaction.
Right.
And their reaction was, oh. And I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Maybe you should just assign them a psychologist now.
Yeah. So another day passes and another Marjorie Taylor Greene story. How's that feel?
Well, that feels pretty good, actually. The satirical piece I wrote today was about Marjorie Taylor Greene physically attacking a deli. It's gotten some traction, so maybe it'll hit Snopes. I don't know. I don't even know how many articles I've had covered by Snopes so far. Yeah. And of course, there was that story that was covered by USA Today too. So every once in a while, a story breaks out into the zeitgeist. So I have hopes. I'm allowed to hope, aren't I?
If you get enough people going, wait, what?
Yeah, wait, what? Yeah. Well, I think the picture of her with the AR-15 really will entice people to click.
Yeah, because there's only like 7,000 of those online.
What I'm actually surprised at is, as I'm talking to legitimate bloggers from Pathos, from the Pathos non-religious channel, about how many of them actually appreciate what I do, and I'm like, really? I don't think you legitimate people should actually be associated with me in any real way. But I do appreciate that you enjoy the humor.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where, everybody needs a chuckle, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of their position and whether they build that business association with you, there's still some enjoyment for a great number of people in what you do and how you do it. So again, we come back to Andy's talent, and just take it. It's a compliment.
Oh, right. Thank you, Dave. The check is in the mail, sir. The check is in the mail.
A little Andy therapy, yeah.
A little Andy therapy. That's right. What's up, Bonnie?
That bunny meowed.
I had a friend of mine in high school was attacked by another friend's rabbit.
Yeah.
Just attacked his ankles, just with his teeth.
Bunnies are substantial hunters.
And I'm sure and I'm going to answer a question that you probably are both wondering, whether or not rats and bunnies can live in the same ecosystem in the city. And categorically, yes. I've seen in the area that I live in, East Somerville, there's way too many rats. But there's also a lot of rabbits too.
Wow.
So they can coexist.
There's on the way to where my sister lives, there is a very famous, I don't know what you call them. They're like on the freeway where you turn off the freeway. It's not a turnpike. It's like a freeway off-ramp. And there's road that surrounds this green grassy area. And for many, many years, people have been dropping off their unwanted pets, rabbits, in this area. So you drive by this area and you're like, what the hell is going on over there? And there's like 60 or 70 rabbits out in the grass eating the grass.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing.
I think if we feed them with the radioactive vodka,
Ooh.
we could have a real life. What is it? What's that movie from the 50s? It was The Night of the Lupines or something like that about the giant rabbits. A classic. Classic film.
Oh, where do you find the time, Andy? Where do you find the time?
The thing is, and I don't know if either one of you feel like you get geek shamed or nerd shamed when you hear someone talk about something that you feel like you should know. The Night of the Lepus. Here we go. Thank you, Tesla Ranger. You know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, Tesla Ranger was the one that came up with the Fallout reference to Nuka-Cola. Nuka-Cola. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, take care, John Hudson. I'm sorry to hear that your internet is taking a crap on you. Hey, and Glenn Chesterson's here.
Hey,
what's up, Glenn?
Hey, how you guys doing?
You sound distant, sir.
Well, he is on the other side of the country. Oh, wait, he's closer to you.
Oh, sorry. I had my headphones on. I had my headphones on. I was trying to switch them off.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I was listening to a friend of mine's podcast, Ken Reed. He's been on the channel before. He's a local guy. He does TV guidance counselor, something like that, right? TV guidance counselor. And he had Mike Mignola, who's a comic book artist and writer, on as a guest. And they were talking about Bride of Frankenstein. I've seen Bride of Frankenstein, but I haven't seen it for years. And I'm going, wow, I think I should really see that movie. I felt like geek shamed by not having seen it within the last decade or so, or revisiting it. So now that's on my list because I feel like I should know it. I should rewatch it.
Yeah, I went through a few older movies recently and caught up with some of my old favorites, but I don't usually go back and watch the horror ones because the new ones are so great with the CGI and the ability to like scare the wits out of you that you kind of hold on through them. Although there is a movie from back in, I want to say in the 70s, it might be the 60s, and it's called Without Warning. And it's a movie where it's like a regular movie, and then just in an instant, like somebody walks around a corner and wham, they're getting murdered.
Wow.
Or, they get smashed to death or whatever. But all of like every death, it isn't like Jaws where it's na, and there's a build up to it, right? It's if you're not watching, boom, it happens. Right?
You got to have a lot of characters for that. You got to have a lot of actors to get killed that quickly.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, this is what you were saying about the newer ones being better. I think part of what makes some of those older horror movies so good is somewhat the campiness, like, and after because it was obviously like when they made the first Evil Dead, it was supposed to be a horror movie, but it was so camp that they just leaned straight into okay, let's make this as ridiculous as possible. And I think they went that way with same thing with Friday the 13th. After the first couple, they go, okay, let's just make this as camp and as like grotesque. Let's make it pretty much a comedy, to the point that Jason versus Freddy was just, it was funny. Like it was good because it was bad, and I think the Sci-Fi Channel has done some really good horrible bad movie, like horrible horror movies or slasher movies and stuff, like Two-Headed Shark Attack.
Glenn, I'm glad you brought up Evil Dead, because the first time I saw Evil Dead was in a theater in Saint-Foy in French in Quebec, And it was scary as hell because half of the dialogue I didn't understand. So the brain kind of fills in the gaps. So I'm missing all the funny parts and I'm seeing all the horror parts. And then, I don't know, about 5 years later, I watched it in English and I was like, oh.
Yeah. But you see, I think the thing is, what you are right is that I think the newer ones are, because you got the CGI, it is more of a horror slasher movie, whereas in the past, you look at that time, it was really good. But you look back, you go, oh my God, that is so corny. Or it's so and but now people have made, like I say, they've made a scene, they've made an actual glitch. I mean, I'm trying to think of the word. Like part of horror where they're making it try to be as bad as possible. Sharknado.
A niche for camp and to get as much humor into those movies as possible. But the movies that are out have a budget and they have better effects, not only in what they're like, the facial effects, the prosthetics, the appliances, the weapons that they're using, the blood they're using is more real. They have, they've learned the lighting, they've figured it all out. So when they start adding, After Effects and that to the production and the sound and that, they're terrifically horrifying. But when you look back at the old ones, it's almost like watching a children's show. It's like, this is hilarious.
I'm about to start reading Dance Macabre by Stephen King, where he talks about horror movies, horror books, and what makes a good horror story. And I got, and I guess this is just a commercial for Ken Reed's TV Guidance Council podcast, is that what got me interested, because I do write some horror. I have a book of vampire short stories at Amazon. And he says that the structure of comedy is the same as for basic horror in terms of, the preparation, the setup, and then the release of emotion. It's just a different emotion.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to reading Dance Macabre. That was me just being narcissistic there for a minute. Excuse me.
Sorry.
But
it's your show. It goes in whichever direction you want.
Yeah. Well, you see, I also remember one of my favorite TV shows in the '80s, miniseries, was V.
Oh,
and you look at the special effects and like the stuff there. It's like one of them where one of the main bad ladies is eating a reptile, and she's I think eating a hamster or something, and you see her jawline expand, and you're going, and if you look back at now, you go, oh my God, you can 100% see that's prosthetic. Like, there's no delusions about it. Whereas, now with the technology, they're able to make it look more realistic. So,
Yeah. Things changed right around Terminator 2. When the special effects got to the point that you can actually make superhero movies or fantasy movies look like the way they should be.
Yeah.
That you would say, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course I guess it took off with when people started to use 3D as I guess the first one was the Avatar movie was the first one they really started to use 3D to an advantage of. One of the first one they used the modern day special effects with 3D, incorporating 3D as well, which was, and now how many movies, like if you're a superhero movie or stuff, that's pretty much guaranteed it's going to be 3D.
No. What's up, Sammy? Just want to say hello to Sammy. I like the fact that you're in shadows, Sammy. Very atmospheric.
Yeah, so you don't see the destruction behind me.
You're supposed to say it's because it's fucking nighttime here. That's why.
In the merry old land of Oz.
From the land down under.
Yes. Oh, and my little one's up again. I shall return.
All right, Sammy.
Oh, hang on. Nope. Self-soothed.
Self-soothe. That's an important skill to have. I have yet to master that myself.
I'm fucking useless.
Yeah.
Andy, there's
I was thinking. I'm starting to see a theme in your shows to do with American police, and I thought, imagine certain police's conversations when they come home. It'd be like, yeah, pretty average day. You know, we pinned some guy for having meth in an urn. Then we strip searched a minor. Should have seen it. I told that motherfucker I was going to fuck his shit up. But hang on, what was the words? I was going to fuck him up, yeah. Yeah, it was a good day.
Good day
at work.
And you know what? There's even a chance of me being able to be on the firing squad, too.
There's an opportunity here for like the post police or whatever you call it. You know, the two guys who are cops and live together, and they go home and they sit on the couch and they work in like cities next to each other. So at the end of the day, they get home and they're watching their favorite sports ball game. And so what happened at work today? Oh man, I tased this guy. You should have seen him crap himself. It was awesome.
And I tased him in the genitals too.
You see, with everyone saying it's like, what was the state that brought in brought back the firing squad?
Yeah, in South Carolina.
Yeah, because honestly, I'm trying to think that, like, I'm 100% against the death penalty, but I'm thinking that with them, because they wasn't there one state where that they did the lethal injection, and it was and they got the wrong drug so bad the guy was convulsing for like an hour or something. Honestly, if I had the choice, it's either hang me, guillotine, or a firing squad, because those are pretty much all instant.
I would take a good old-fashioned sledgehammer to the head, or really fast.
Well,
no, because firing squads are, if they can actually aim properly, there's only probably, plus also a hanging, if it's done properly, you're dead instantly, and also
there's a lot of leeway in that if.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll take that over lethal injection where they don't have the right drugs.
Yeah.
And those people and countries and nations and whatever who haven't quite gotten rid of the death penalty, generally trying to head towards how can we take it out of a person's hands as much as possible so that no one's responsible. But it seems that these states have actually gone, how can we share this around to as many as people as possible?
Yeah.
Firing squad.
Well, firing squad basically is only one guy that's got a live round in, and no one knows which.
No, it's.
I thought everyone had a live round, bar one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was there was only one live round in there.
No, okay, it's the other way around.
What's interesting about medieval obscure fact? People used to pay axemen, people who would cut your head off back in medieval times, because if you didn't bribe that person, they could come in drunk and just not operate their sword or their axe properly, and it would take multiple swings to do the job properly. Yeah. And so, a little bit of interesting historical knowledge there.
Yeah.
I think one of the most mind-blowing things to consider, and everyone's heard it, but it bears repeating, the fact that the human head stays alive for several seconds.
Yeah
That's why guillotine is not my choice. That's not my choice right there.
Being detached and aware.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that's just
wow.
Yeah, if I got to choose the way I die, in case I, committed a capital crime or at least convicted of one, I'd be like, old age, please. Old age in my home. That's what I choose.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there's like a whole thing about war crimes and what's going on in the United States and what's going on in Afghanistan and that sort of thing. And there was an event during a battle where a soldier stood up with an RPG and was about to take out a tank, and it was an F1A1, and they don't miss. Like, those things are very accurate. They have the whole 3-angle gimbal system to keep the guns level and whatever. So they just basically with their mouse put a pixel on a guy and go goodbye. So this guy, I don't remember how far away he was. I think it was only a couple of 100 yards, and they hit him with an HE round, dead center mass in the chest. And he instantly turned into pink mist.
Sure.
And I was thinking, that's the way to go. If you're going to go, like, poof, off like a switch, right?
Yeah.
I'm gone. Yeah. No mistakes. No.
Interesting that what Jesse Bear said. That's why Henry VIII got a pearl from France to behead Anne, because he was being kind in killing her. The axe was a sloppy way of killing folks, indeed.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think that the statistics have shown that if we're just going to talk about it, that the death penalty is not it doesn't combat crime at all. It's just pure revenge. It's pure. It's not a deterrent. People are still committing crimes at a high rate. Like, Yeah.
The death penalty is just a manifestation of this kind of midbrain mentality that we have as a species. That is just weaponized and made and exacerbated by Christianity and other religions, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember. Was it when they asked? Because they asked. I think it was when Dukakis was running as president. They asked him. It's like it was a gotcha question.
Yep.
But he didn't answer it properly. They asked him, well, if you say you're against the death penalty, but what if your son? He goes, well, that's why I shouldn't be allowed. That's why emotion needs to be taken out of it. Like, and I think that's more or less what he said. What he said.
The Caucus said go ahead, Sammy. I'll wait.
Oh, just a quick little thought. Think about this. These same people that want or vouch for execution then believe that those same people are going to be tortured for eternity in hell after their execution. Exactly.
One belief just feeds into another, right? I want to say this about Dukakis is that he gave substantially, the right answer. And this is the thing, when people are fucking with you in a debate, then you gotta give them a bloody lip. You gotta give them a bloody nose. If they ask you a fucking stupid ass question like that, then you gotta hit them hard, and you gotta be emotional with them too.
Yeah,
I get angry just fucking thinking about it. I get angry just fucking thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I don't remember exactly what his answer was. I just remember that it was one of the things that kind of lost him. That they're making a story out of him. Releasing a guy that then went on to kill someone, and also that stupid stunt with him going in a tank and stuff like that made him look stupid. But I mean, it's an issue that's that we're in a modern society and we still think executing people is a good thing. I'm just like, and the thing is, this is. If the death penalty was, if you could 100% prove that the person is because how many people have been on death? Like there was just a story about two people being on death row, two brothers being released after 30 odd years in prison. Each of them got $1 million for every year. One of them was on death row that entire time.
Yep.
And he could have been executed for a crime he didn't commit.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you could if we lived in a utopian society where we could where everything was monitored, not only but like where you could 100% prove, like beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this person did it, but you can't, because most cases are based on circumstantial evidence.
Remember that 30 years ago there was no viable DNA. Like you could test blood types, but you couldn't conclusively conclude that. We were doing the best we could at the time.
Yeah, but they also coerced confessions.
We live in a much different world, and our penal system. Yes, I said penal.
Penal. Say the word caucus next, Steve.
The Penal Caucus. Yeah. The penal system needs to be renovated just as the political system does. It needs a little going over. It needs to get to the point where once somebody goes to jail, their story doesn't end.
Yeah.
The investigation doesn't stop. Like, if we put somebody in jail based on a jury trial, and they just have to be convinced to a certain level to put a person in jail, that person needs to be part of some review process at some point, even if it takes years to get to. That needs to be inherent in the system, that we do better.
Yeah,
we're capable of doing better.
At the very least, the state should not get in the way of new evidence coming up. I mean, there's been a bunch of cases with the Innocence Project, if I believe I have the name correctly.
Yes.
Now that they're trying to bring up, new DNA evidence, and the state doesn't want to hear anything about it.
Because that's because of the way the system is built. Once you're in jail, convicted, and your trial is over, your appeal process is finished. There is no door or window to open. There is no, like, every time you get new evidence in a case, if somebody is in jail, that case should be reviewed by people who are not involved in the case, but just people who can say, yes, this is worth taking another look at and investigating. And I want to say, by the same token, when it comes to the death penalty, I believe it should be voluntary. I think I know, right?
Are you saying that I should be able to volunteer other people for the death penalty? Because I think I could be spot on with that, Dave.
No, that's voluntolding. We went through that yesterday.
I like that, though. I think I'm in voluntold. I think I'm in that camp right there.
No, but imagine somebody is a police officer and they're in a rough neighborhood, in a rough state, say New Jersey, and at some point they snap, lose it, and they get in a fight with their spouse, and they end up that spouse dies, and they end up going to jail, and they're going to spend the rest of their life in jail or the death penalty. Now, they know that every single person in that jail is going to want to cut a little piece of them off, is going to want to beat them every day. Their life is going to be worse than the average prisoner's forever. And probably some of the guards are in a position where they could, because they're low paid and it's a private institution, they could be paid off to allow things to happen to this person. Why would they not say, rather than spend the rest of my existence in jail, just turn me off like a switch?
Someone like me is going to die going to jail regardless, like, be it from being beaten to death, raped, or just from sheer fear because I couldn't go to jail. So kill me now. Like, I'll take the death penalty straight up.
I don't think it's the government's job to do that.
To do what?
To kill its own citizens, unless it is in the
kill
moment.
Myself.
Would it not fall into?
Oh yeah, but if you want to kill yourself, then go ahead and kill yourself.
But would that not fall into the category of assisted?
No offense, Sammy. I mean, you're a nice guy.
I may hold you to that one day, Andy.
And you're a member and everything. And I don't want to tell my members here on YouTube and patrons that go ahead and do that. That would be a bad precedent. But when we think about the fact that people don't have free will, all right, and that what is the best way, so you have people who don't have free will, and how is the best way to be compassionate? Yeah. Right? How is the best way to be compassionate? What's the least restrictive way of interacting with them? And how do we change behavior over time? And that's obviously by not, I don't think that's the path forward in terms of giving people the option of killing themselves in prison or prison.
Yeah. You were talking about the review process, and it's I think what annoys me just as much as the fact that a lot of times due to the legal process and stuff, when new evidence becomes available, a lot of times, especially in death penalty cases, they won't if a person is getting a stay of execution, just to hear new evidence that could exonerate this person, it doesn't happen, and it's just like you're about to take a person's life. Like, there is no coming back from that. You're about to take a person's life, and there's a chance that he could be that there's evidence that he might not have done it, or that at least he wasn't as culpable as you think. And
I'm gonna, you know, and I want to say this too, and this is another one of those third rail. Okay, I'm gonna. There are people who make major decisions that cannot be altered, and then after they make those decisions, they go, "Whoopsie, I guess I was wrong."
Yeah.
Deciding to get yourself killed as against to going to prison could be one of those decisions.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's also like
There's also the aspect of coerced consent, and if you're in a high controlled environment like being put into prison, there's a significant possibility of being coerced into consent.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, also you have, like, you see, this is what you know, the amount of cases of people prison sent to death, prison sentenced to death and being executed when, you know, they didn't even do it. You know, Emmett Till.
Oh, yeah.
And then you hear about these cases, and it's just, and you know, like what they were saying in terms of that a person's life shouldn't end just because they end up in prison, that their case should be reviewed. I also think that if a person comes out of prison, they shouldn't automatically. They should be allowed to then if they've done their time, they should be allowed to rejoin society, and for the most part, live their life. Like, in terms of voting, why is it that that you're not allowed to vote because you were in prison? Why is it
correct that in some states?
It's that way in Florida, I believe, that you can't vote if you are a felon.
I think it's more than Florida. I think there's quite a few states, at least Republican-controlled states, that have made it, you know, well, besides trying to restrict voting anyway, but I mean, for other reasons. But I mean, you know, not being like, it's the problem is also a felon comes out and trying to find work is very difficult. And then what happens is they just end up getting back in prison because they just start committing more crimes because they need to live. They need to feed themselves, you know?
Well, that's interesting. I have a map here. This is just a clarification point. In Tennessee and Kentucky, and Virginia, I'm sorry, all people with felony convictions are permanently disenfranchised.
Yeah. And like I just said, forget the fact of voting, having such a black mark on you that you're not even able to get a job, you know?
Yeah.
You know what that's what it's akin to? It's shunning.
Yeah.
It's shaming, but it's also consequences for actions, right?
Yeah.
But you've already paid your consequences. You went to jail, right?
Yeah.
Right. So should there be an appeal process? Should there be a review board that says if you serve 10 years in prison and you come out and you've never voted before in your life, should you be able to appeal and say, I'd like to vote now and I want to be a more productive person in society and I want to, yeah, absolutely. There should be a review process to that. But for the guy who's not going to vote anyway and doesn't care and never voted in his life, doesn't matter.
Well, once again, it isn't the state's position. It isn't in the state's best interest to restrict the rights of its citizens unnecessarily. So it's always the case that whenever the state restricts freedoms of its citizens, and I'm going to put on my big L libertarian hat here, it is up to the government to put up a really good and pressing argument why that's necessary. And in lieu of that, the government doesn't have a right to restrict people's rights.
Whenever they restrict voting based on felony convictions, it's also usually paired with making certain crimes felonies and heavily policing people you don't like with those crimes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why there needs to be a review process, right? Because is this crime worthy of removing someone's right to vote? No. Just let them vote.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is that it comes down to punishment over rehabilitation. Do you believe that when someone's finished their sentence, they're rehabilitated? If you do, then they should be allowed to rejoin society
The government's job is not to punish people. It is to rehabilitate people.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So if
Unfortunately,
they're
that's
looking
not
to
what
punish
prisons
people,
do.
what's that?
Unfortunately, that's not what prisons do.
This is
It's a
correct.
They should do
leftover
that.
from-
They should do that.
It's a leftover from the crime and punishment era that needs to be renovated in the system. It needs to be brought up to current standards of what we need to do for our society to make it better.
And it's a manifestation once again of Christianity too.
Yeah.
And of the lower brainstem. It's the focus on punishment over rehabilitation.
Well, it also comes down to this, that the law needs to be applied equally to all sections of society, and it isn't. There's obviously 100% documentation that minorities are less likely to aren't treated as fairly in the justice system as Caucasians, judged just by whatever way you want to look at it. Whether you want to look at the fact that I don't know if it's still in effect, but when they were doing the war on drugs, crack cocaine got 10 times the length of sentence that the same amount of cocaine did. And why is that? Because who used crack cocaine mostly? Inner city minorities, and white people used cocaine.
So this is interesting. Ox mentioned that in North Carolina you couldn't vote until about 2 years ago. In North Carolina, just because I'm looking at this map, it's a state where people with felony convictions can vote upon completion of their sentence. So there's a variation within the United States of America, depending on what state you're in, about whether or not you can vote, not vote, or even vote while you're in prison too.
In all fairness, I don't even know what the law is in Canada either.
What's that?
I don't even know if a felon in Canada is allowed to vote.
Oh, I think they are.
I don't.
I've never in Australia.
One question I would ask: if a person is convicted of the crime of falsifying a legal document like a voter record, or if they're caught cheating the vote, should they be removed from the voting process for the rest of their life?
You'd have a lot of Republicans in in jail then, Dave.
Well, no. Just remember that everyone was talking about voter fraud after 2016 and 2020. The only cases of voter fraud that were actually proven in 2016 and I think 2020 were all Republicans.
Right.
I only knew of one case of person committing voter fraud. They're now not with us anymore, and they were a libertarian. They were a big L libertarian, and they voted in several towns.
Yeah.
So, just so you know, Canadians who will be 18 years of age or older on polling day and who are in a correctional institution or federal penitentiary in Canada may vote by special ballot in an election or referendum.
Okay.
So they can vote from prison.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically a mail-in vote.
Yeah. I see no reason to restrict felon votes.
Yeah.
Unless they're voting illegally, right? Unless they're actually...
That is illegal voting in and of itself already, not because they're felons, though.
Yeah.
So, just a little interesting fact. In Australia, the only reason you can't vote are people who have been convicted of treason and not pardoned.
Yeah.
And I knew a man, he wouldn't tell us why he wasn't allowed to vote, but he couldn't vote. So now I know he was guilty of treason somehow. He was a lifelong criminal. Like, he'd served a large portion of his life in prison.
Did he side with the emus in the Great Emu War?
I don't know, but he couldn't get his license or anything.
Treason. He probably didn't drink Fosters.
The government basically, he just couldn't. Yeah.
And by the way, the Great Emu War was a real thing in Australia. I think it was in 1932.
What?
Yeah, you don't remember? You don't know the Great Emu War?
Something else I have to Google. Why do I always have to Google stuff in your shows?
Because my brain is full of non-useful information.
Good
Well,
grief.
Because you're too comfortable in Canada, in Canada, Dave.
Right?
Big world out there, you know.
I'm a 50-year-old white guy in Canada. I don't know shit.
Oh yeah,
This is ridiculous.
yeah. I believe the military had a Vickers gun, which is an automatic gun, an early automatic gun, and there was a flock. I don't know what you call a group of emus, but I believe the Australians lost the war against emus too, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, here it is.
They like the soldiers literally went to war against the emus.
This is a true story. Yeah.
Damn me, man.
I'm dumbfounded. I'm bumfuzzled. I'm like, what the hell? Come on, Australia.
emu's life matters.
Emus.
Mate, look, you come and face off with the emu and then talk to me about it, all right?
I would not face off against an emu or a kangaroo. I hear kangaroos can be quite devastating.
Well, yeah.
Well, I heard the worst ones are the cassowaries, or those big things with those talons that can rip a person's face off or something. At least that's what I heard Australia has. But Australia also
Oh, yeah, they're a lot worse than an emu, but they're a lot rarer. And
Yeah.
they're only in
Pretty sure a
specific
Canada goose
parts.
could annoy an emu to death.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of emus too. Interesting, Tesla Ranger.
I had a ride by scuffle with a Canada goose not long ago.
Yeah.
I've never had an issue with the Canada goose. Are they vicious?
Oh, they're ridiculous. They're a mindless eating machine. And if they even suspect that you have food, they will harass you as far as they possibly can. And the little bastards can fly, so you can't get away from them.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's true.
I've seen tourists in Stanley Park, and I should really go down there again because it is tourist season again. Go down there, and they give their little kids like a bag of bread or seeds or something like this, and they start feeding the birds, and they're feeding the ducks or something like that. And the geese will notice, and they will like form a semicircle around them from behind and close in on them. And all of a sudden, you just see them start pecking, and they know that if they peck at your ankles and your hands and your shins and your legs, that you will drop whatever food you have and run away, and they get the food. So it happens repeatedly. I swear, you could go down there for 3-4 hours midday. You could probably see this repeat every 20 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like a viral video.
Yeah, you see the whole. Yeah, Dave, I think you need to video this. You see, the thing is, this it's honestly, when you fly into Vancouver, it should be welcome to Vancouver. Don't for fuck's sakes feed the Canadian goose.
Yeah.
We have border collies down at the airport that chase away the birds from the airport, and the geese, if there's enough of them, if 6 or 7 of them land, they will fight the dogs.
That's hard. That's hard, man. I hope those dogs get combat pay.
Yeah. Well,
swans can be violent too. The girlfriend was attacked twice by swans.
What?
If she was in the chat, if she wasn't working right now, she would be totally talking about that story, that she was attacked by swans.
We had down at Lost Lagoon down here, we had I don't know what you'd call it, like areas that were roped off with that plastic fencing for the swans to nest down there. And those birds are enormous, and you can feed them. When you put seed in your hand, they peck your hand, and you feel the impact. It's like being hit with a baseball, right? These things will. So I can imagine if they were angry with you, but how would you anger such a bird, like other than maybe it going into its nest and messing around with its egg? I've never seen one attack somebody, but they are large birds and they're quite strong.
You're talking about ostriches?
No. Big swan.
Oh, swans.
Yeah, I don't know what the exact circumstances are of the how she was attacked by a swan on 2 different occasions. Next time she's on in the chat, we'll ask.
Yeah.
I'd say nesting.
Yeah, stumbling into a nest would be bad. We
Yeah,
have lots of predator birds up here, though. They're kind of fun.
So it's a mob. It's a mob of emus and a group of wombats is a wisdom, Sammy. Wow.
True story.
I like that. I like that.
And echidnas are a parade.
What animal?
Australian anteater, spiky anteater, echidna.
I thought anteaters were pretty much solitary creatures.
Apparently not.
Huh?
Can have they do. They get together for parades, obviously.
Interesting.
It might be an annual thing.
yeah. Well, it's I saw this picture, but people don't realize. Like, I never realized just how, in terms of Canadian animals, how big moose are. How actually they're human. Like they were like 8 feet tall or something like that. Like. At least that's what
you
I'm
win
told.
the internet, Tesla Ranger.
Oh, we're sorry, Glenn, for interrupting your well thought out statement with this joke. But that's just how the show runs. Tesla Ranger on fire.
Actually, wouldn't they be called exactly what Trump was called for 4 years? Whiny little bitch.
Well, I think a complaint is a little. It's better in terms of joke form. It's better in terms of joke form.
If you say wine around Karens, they start asking, is it red? Is it white? Is it sparkling? Yeah.
But it has to be in a box. That's what
Yeah. I've I forgot what
so you completely derailed the thought process with that joke.
You were talking about the giant caribou moose and stuff that we have here that are taller than cars and weigh 600 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just saw pictures, and apparently, like, well, any sort of large animal, like even if your car hits a deer or something, it's going to destroy your car. But
sure,
like you can imagine hitting a moose, you'll be dead.
Yeah.
The big thing about hitting a moose is if you've ever seen the MythBuster series, when they were talking about could you drive under a moose, they were actually it was one of the stunts that they did that turned out to be ridiculously dangerous because they weren't expecting what happened to happen. And when you hit a moose with a car, you basically take the legs out and the moose will not lower. So it hits just at the base, just above the base of the windshield, and everything from just above the base of the windshield to the back of the car gets removed by this 600 to 800 pound moose.
Yeah.
So it pretty much can, if you're stuck in a seatbelt or a child seat or something like that, your chances of decapitation are almost 100%.
And similarly, we, this sounds horrible now that I pre-think of it before I say it, but we try and hit the kangaroos on the downward bounce for the same reason.
Okay. I was trying to rework a joke here, but so let me understand this. There's a kangaroo going down, and that's the ideal time to hit a kangaroo? Sammy?
Absolutely. So it goes under the car. If you hit it on that way up, same deal with the moose, through the windscreen, all sorts of, horror.
That's the pro tip. So if you hit the kangaroo and the moose on the downward bounce.
Yeah.
Well, if you hit the moose, it doesn't really matter where you hit him. It's going to destroy your car.
Yeah.
At best. Horse is
Whatever,
going to kill you.
whatever part of your car hit the moose is going to lose.
Yeah.
I know it's another morbid scene, but a friend of mine is an ambulance attendant guy. He's a emergency services worker, and he's just one of his big pet peeves is people who travel in vehicles and don't secure their pets properly. Because in a car accident, an unsecured pet that weighs more than 20 pounds is a projectile. It's a danger to itself, to humans, to people outside the car. It's nasty.
You're right about that. I had a friend of mine is a animal trainer. She's a dog trainer, actually, and she's been on this channel before, Melissa McHugh. And one of the things we talked about was how important it is to, keep your animal safe while driving, because they do become projectiles and they can hurt you, and they can definitely hurt themselves.
And it really disturbs me. I want to do a video about this actually on Atheist Primetime, free plug, about this, because people, they go around and they say, oh yeah, he's part of the family, we love him so much, I don't know what we ever did without him, and all this, and then they stick him on their lap.
I know, dude.
And
That's
their airbag goes off.
It kills them.
Yeah.
What you should do, I mean, I don't want to shit anybody, but I could get you in contact with my friend who is a dog trainer, and if you want to talk to her for the channel or for your show, and she will tell you data and give you some interesting anecdotal story. And because she's an expert, she's trained, she's certified, and she's been doing this kind of work for decades. Dave, if you want to get in contact with her, I can give you her info.
I would, I'll shoot you a message privately on that. I would love to get Lance, my buddy, and her together on a show because opposite ends, different countries, different coasts, different perspectives on what's going on, different volume of incidents they deal with, but having people who are familiar with what's going on to that extent is it's valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, I think most people just don't think about it, right? They don't think about, like when I was a kid, and I think most of us are of a certain age, that their parents just threw you in the back of the station wagon or whatever, and you never had to wear a seatbelt, right? Yeah. And it's because they never thought about it. And it's similar now with how people treat their animals.
Yeah, and sorry to circle back, my point was, if a 20 to 25 pound dog can do that much damage inside a car, imagine what a 250 pound kangaroo or an 800 pound caribou can do to a car. There's, it's a bad day.
Those things, those caribous. I'm just going to say caribous to save time. Can become as big as cars.
Yeah.
Well, you see them in real life. They're enormous animals.
But what about the Canadian Caraggeese? That's what I want.
I would not want to run into one of those. No. That's a horror movie waiting to be written. Yeah, you can get a lot of jokes in that.
I was involved in the car accident when I was involved in a car accident when I was a kid. My mom was driving both me and my brother to school, and I don't know back then if there was seatbelts in the back of cars, because that was probably, I'd say, probably early 80s. And my brother was sitting in the middle, and we got hit from behind, and he was lucky. He just like flew forward, because he could have, if it had been bad, he could have gone, right into the windshield and done serious damage.
Yeah. I just want to say this, Sammy. Right. So I was rewriting that joke that was in the chat about bingo. And when you said, and so I kind of clocked out of the conversation. So when you talk about hitting a kangaroo when it was bouncing down, I literally thought about a person squaring off against a kangaroo. It's like, you got to get them on the downward bounce, man, because that's the way you got to roll with a kangaroo.
I love that your mind went there. I love that people think that's what we do here.
I remember the first time I ever saw rhubards, and if you don't know what rhubards are, you have to Google it. They're literally the big trucks that travel across the bad roads and the highways that are out in the middle of Australia. they have rhubards that come right up over their hood. Some of them extend to cover the windshield because these hoppy little critters will get out there. And if a 100-pound kangaroo hits your windshield, that could end your day, all of them. And they have rhubars for these trucks that run down the open roads where there are lots and lots of kangaroos.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're closing in on an hour. I don't even know what we talked about over the last hour.
Bad horror movies, death penalty,
the Great Emu War.
The Great.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And minor things like the death penalty and free will, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Gangrene.
Taylor Green. And a joke that I think I'm going to keep in my arsenal about old ladies and bingos. I think that is something that's going to go into the notebook and play around with that a little bit.
I missed that one. I can't wait to see you pull that out of your hat.
Well, it's in the chat somewhere. It's okay. Rewrites joke. A group of old ladies going to church is called a bingo.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andy, I just want to quickly ask because I seem to really not understand this whole filibuster thing that you were talking about on the thing. Okay, if you've got like a couple minutes, dude.
Give me a second because I actually did some research on this after our last conversation about the filibuster. What it does is that when you're having a debate in the Senate, you have to have a vote to close the debate, right? So that you can actually vote on it. A filibuster prevents closing the debate and getting to a vote. So that means it just dangles out there.
Yeah.
It just dangles out there. That's how I understand the U.S. filibuster is that, once again, you have to have a vote to close discussion. And if you cannot attain that vote, that means you can never vote on that bill.
No. Andy.
No, but is there a time limit on how long a bill can be up for debate before it has to be voted on? And is that the reason why the filibuster works?
I think the idea is that the Republicans just have to threaten a filibuster at this point. And they could do maybe some discussion, but the other side would just look at it as a waste of time for all intents and purposes.
Because what I'm thinking is if an idiot like decides to read Green Eggs and Ham 5,000 times in a row and delay the vote 15 hours, does it matter? Because eventually in theory, you can just vote on it anyway when they're finally done, even if they filibuster 20 straight days, right?
We have talked about this before. There was something called the standing filibuster that you would see when Mr. Smith goes to Washington, or that you saw during the Civil Rights Act when there were Republican senators reading from the telephone book. So in that case, in that old form of the filibuster, people would actually have to stand and deliver, so to speak. And once they couldn't do that, the filibuster would end. However, that was reformed as in make worse. And so now politicians just have to say they're going to filibuster, and that counts.
Yeah.
But that is also a good thing because they're not wasting the time. They're saying, I would have wasted everybody's time for the next 20 whatever hours reading this garbage, but let's shelf this and move on to other business.
You got to disincentivize people from being cunts. Oops, I said a word.
It's a thought of section.
So in other words, if you know you have to stand up there, it's the walk the talk. It's walking the talk. If you know you have to go up there and read the phone book for 20 hours, there's going to be a lot less people willing to filibuster.
Yeah, but also, like I said, if someone's going to, they can say, okay, do what you want to do for the next 20 hours. We're just going to have the vote tomorrow, then, right? Technically. Like they could just vote on it when eventually it's all these idiots have had their 20 hours each, and it might take 3 weeks to get a vote.
And that's how the Civil Rights Act got passed too, is because there are people just reading out of phone books. They couldn't do it anymore, and it got passed.
Yeah. So theoretically, you can filibuster all you want. Eventually, you can say, okay, is anyone done reading Green Eggs and Ham? Can we take a vote? And then they can take a vote. Anyway, right? It's just going to take an extra week or so, right? In theory, right?
In theory, as I understand, yeah.
Andy, if I'm not incorrect, and I could be, because I try to follow along with what's going on there, but it is a confusing sort of deal that they're running through. Anyone who's making an argument or a counterpoint is limited in time, but it's the person who has to call the vote who can filibuster by just making a enormously long statement and never getting to the point where they actually say, I'm going to call the vote now.
You know, I gotta tell you, I really do have to close the show. Tomorrow, we're going to discuss the filibuster. We're going to go through the information. That's what we're going to do.
Teaser.
We're just going to talk about the filibuster. But I really have to go. I have to go work today. I have to eat. I have to prepare. I'll talk to you all later.
Have a good day, guys. I don't know if I'll see any of you guys until